Hey everyone, welcome back to English Without Effort. I'm David.
And I'm Alice. So glad you're here with us today.
Quick thing before we dive in. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
Seriously, it takes like 2 seconds, and it really helps us out. We appreciate every single one of you.
Now here's something I want you to remember. You are improving your English right now, just by listening to us talk. You don't have to memorize anything. You don't have to take notes.
That's so true. Your brain is actually picking up the rhythm and the flow of real English conversation without you even trying. It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
And the more you listen, the more natural it starts to feel. One day you'll open your mouth and the words just come out. And you'll think, wait, where did that come from?
That happened to me when I was learning Spanish. I wasn't even studying. I was just listening to a lot of podcasts and TV shows, and then suddenly I could just talk. It really does work.
So hang in there, keep listening, and trust the process. It's working even when it doesn't feel like it.
Oh, and one more thing. Stick around till the very end of today's episode. We've got a speaking drill where you'll actually say some phrases out loud. It's really fun, I promise.
Okay, so today's topic is something that I think a lot of English learners struggle with, and it's this idea of just keeping the conversation going.
Oh yes, keep talking. This is such a good one.
Right? Because I think a lot of people know a lot of English, they've studied grammar, they know vocabulary, but then they get into a real conversation and suddenly their mind goes blank.
Completely blank. Like, you open your mouth and nothing comes out. And then it gets awkward and you just want to disappear.
Exactly. So today we're talking about how to actually keep a conversation going in English, even when you're nervous, even when you don't know the perfect word.
I love this topic because, honestly, even native speakers struggle with this sometimes. Keeping a conversation flowing is a real skill.
It really is. So Alice, let me ask you, when you think about a great conversation, what makes it work? Like, what keeps it alive?
I think curiosity. Like, if you're genuinely curious about the other person, the conversation kind of takes care of itself. You naturally want to ask more. You want to know more.
That's a really good point. Curiosity is huge. And I think the problem for a lot of learners is that they're so focused on their English, like, am I using the right tense? Is my grammar correct? That they forget to actually be curious about the person they're talking to.
Yes, and the other person can feel that. If you're too inside your own head, the conversation feels stiff. But if you're genuinely listening and reacting, it flows so much better.
So one of the first things I always tell people is, use what I call conversation extenders. These are little phrases that show you're listening and that invite the other person to keep talking.
Oh, I love those. Like, really? Or, what happened next? Or, no way, tell me more.
Exactly those kinds of things. And they're so simple, right? But they're incredibly powerful because they signal to the other person, hey, I'm interested, keep going.
And they buy you a little time, too. While the other person is talking, you can gather your thoughts and figure out what you want to say next.
That's a great point. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. You keep the conversation going and you get a moment to breathe.
Okay, so what else? Because I feel like there's another big thing that trips people up, and it's silence.
Oh, silence. Yes. People are terrified of silence in a conversation.
Right? Like, the second there's a pause, everyone panics. And then they say something random just to fill the space.
And then it gets even more awkward.
So much more awkward. I've done this. I once told someone that I really liked their shoes just because there was a pause and I panicked.
Wait, was that true? Did you actually like their shoes?
I mean, they were okay shoes. They weren't like amazing shoes, but in that moment, they seemed like the most interesting shoes in the world.
That is so relatable. I think we've all been there. But here's the thing. A short pause in a conversation is actually totally normal. It doesn't mean the conversation is dying.
Exactly. It just means someone is thinking. And thinking is good. It usually means something more interesting is about to come out.
So instead of panicking during a pause, you can use a filler phrase to show you're thinking. Something like, that's a good question, or let me think about that for a second.
Oh, that's a good question, is so useful. I use that all the time, even when it's not a particularly good question.
It's a classic, and it's polite. It makes the other person feel good, and it gives you time to think. Win-win.
Okay, so we've got conversation extenders, we've got filler phrases for pauses. What about when you actually don't know a word? Because that's a big one for learners.
Yes, this is so important. And I think a lot of learners make the mistake of just stopping when they can't find the right word. Like they hit a wall and they just stop.
And then the conversation dies, which is the worst outcome.
Right, so instead of stopping, you describe around the word. Like if you can't remember the word umbrella, you say, you know, the thing you use when it's raining. You hold it above your head.
Yes, and honestly, that's what native speakers do too, all the time. I do this constantly. I'll be like, what's that word? You know, the thing you put on your toast in the morning. It's yellow. It's sweet.
Honey?
Honey! Yes. See? It works perfectly. And it actually makes the conversation more fun because the other person gets involved. They want to help you find the word.
It turns into a little game. And it keeps the conversation going, which is the whole point.
Exactly. So don't be embarrassed when you can't find a word. Just describe it. Keep talking.
Keep talking. That's really the golden rule, isn't it? Like, whatever happens, just keep the words coming. Even if they're not perfect words.
100%. Because here's the thing. People don't remember your grammar mistakes. They remember whether you were warm and engaged and interesting.
That's such a good point. I've had conversations with people whose English wasn't perfect at all, but they were so enthusiastic and so curious that I just loved talking to them.
Right? And then I've talked to people with perfect grammar who were just boring, and I couldn't wait for the conversation to end.
So personality beats grammar every single time.
Every single time. Okay, but let's talk about something specific. What do you do when you've answered a question and then there's nothing left to say? Like, you've given your answer and now it's just done.
Oh, this is a really common situation. And the fix is actually pretty simple. You answer the question, and then you add something. A detail, a story, a follow-up thought.
Right, so instead of just saying, yes, I like coffee, you say, yes, I love coffee. Actually, I have a funny story about that.
And now you've got a whole new thread to pull on. The conversation has somewhere to go.
And if you can't think of a story, you can just bounce the question back. Like, what about you? Do you like coffee? Boom. Conversation continues.
Bouncing the question back is underrated. It's so simple, but people forget to do it.
I think people feel like it's lazy or something, like they should have more to say. But no, asking the other person is genuinely good conversation. It shows you care about their opinion.
Absolutely. And most people love talking about themselves, so you're doing them a favor.
That's so true. Okay, I want to bring up one more thing that I think is kind of a big deal, and that's the fear of making mistakes in front of people.
Oh, this is huge. This is probably the number one reason people go quiet in conversations.
Right? Because you think, what if I say something wrong and they judge me? What if they laugh at me?
And here's the thing. In my experience, people almost never judge you for making mistakes in a second language. If anything, they're impressed that you're even trying.
So impressed. Like, whenever someone speaks to me in a language that isn't their first language, I think they're amazing. I don't care if they make mistakes. I'm just happy we can communicate.
And that's how most people feel. The judgment you're imagining is almost always much worse than the reality.
So the next time you feel that fear creeping in, just keep talking. Push through it, because the more you do it, the easier it gets.
It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And the fear gets smaller every single time.
I love that. It's a muscle, so you have to exercise it.
Exactly. And you know what's great practice? Talking to yourself. Like narrating your day in English or having imaginary conversations in your head.
Oh, I did this when I was learning Spanish. I would just walk around my apartment describing everything I was doing. I am making coffee. The coffee smells amazing. I love coffee. Very exciting stuff.
That's actually really effective though, because you're getting your brain used to producing English, not just receiving it.
And it's zero pressure because nobody's listening. Well, except maybe your cat.
And cats are very non-judgmental. They honestly couldn't care less about your grammar.
The best conversation partners.
Okay, so let's also talk about something that I think is underappreciated, which is the power of following up on something the other person said earlier in the conversation.
Oh, like going back to something?
Exactly. Like, say someone mentioned earlier that they went to Japan last year, and then 20 minutes later you say, "Wait, you mentioned Japan earlier. What was the food like?" That person is going to feel so seen.
Oh, that's such a good move. It shows you were actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Which is a trap a lot of people fall into, just waiting for their turn. But real listening means you're taking in what the other person is saying and building on it.
And when you do that, the conversation just gets richer and richer. It goes deeper instead of just staying on the surface.
Right. Surface conversations are fine, but the really good ones, the ones you remember, are the ones that went somewhere unexpected.
That's so true. The best conversations I've ever had started in one place and ended up somewhere completely different. And you kind of can't plan that. It just happens when both people are really engaged.
So I think the big takeaway today is this. Keeping a conversation going isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being curious, and keeping the words coming, even when it's hard.
I love that. Be present, be curious, and just keep talking. That's honestly the whole secret.
And use your tools, conversation extenders, filler phrases, describing around words you don't know, bouncing questions back. You've got a whole toolkit now.
You really do. And the more you practice, the more natural it feels. I promise.
Okay, so next time I think we want to talk about how to start conversations, because that's a whole other challenge, right? Getting that first word out.
Oh yes, the opening line. The scariest moment. That is going to be such a good episode.
I'm already looking forward to it. But before we go, if you've been enjoying English Without Effort, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It genuinely helps us reach more learners around the world.
And if you have a friend who's learning English, share this episode with them. That would mean the world to us. Okay, speaking drill time.
All right, everyone. This is the part where you actually speak out loud. Don't be shy. Nobody's listening except you. Repeat each phrase after us with confidence.
Ready? Here we go. Say this one out loud. Tell me more about that.
Great. Now try this one. That's a really good question.
Nice. Here's the next one. What happened next?
You're doing amazing. Now say this. What about you? What do you think?
Love it. Try this one. Let me think about that for a second.
And one more. This is a great one to keep conversations alive. No way. Tell me more.
You just said real English out loud. That's not nothing. That's actually a big deal. Keep doing that every single day and watch what happens to your speaking.
All right, that's it for today's episode of English Without Effort. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Keep talking.